Be careful what you wish for because it can become a reality.
Yeah. The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something that the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and play a little bit of catch up here. You know, there was a lot of boxing last week that I didn't make videos about that I didn't get a chance to watch. So what I'm gonna be doing is rewatching all the fights and shooting these videos as I go along, and I'm gonna put them all in one video. So Elijah Pierce, Arthur Villanueva, Zuro Goulimarian, Frazer Clarke versus Fabio Wardley, and Ginjiro and YUDAI Shigeoka and their fights. All those videos will just all be in this one because I don't have time to sit there and just individually shoot one and, you know, edit. So just tune in and make sure you guys check the timestamps for the fights you want to see me talk about, and make sure you guys give this video a like. And if you're new, subscribe, send a super thanks in the comments, all that good stuff. And let's get into it. All right, so the first fight we're going to recap, and this whole super recap of last week, is the last Friday night card on Overtime Boxing on DAZN. It featured super bantamweight contender, rising contender, Elijah Pierce, as he was taking on the very dangerous and hard-hitting, formidable Filipino Arthur Villanueva. Now, this is a very exciting fight. The result of the fight was an Elijah Pierce fourth round stoppage. But I think we learned some things about Elijah Pierce in this fight. You know, I saw the highlights of the fight during the week, and a lot of people were criticizing Elijah Pierce because in this fight, in the second round, he got clipped. He got hurt with a straight right hand, and he was off balance, and then he damn near fell through the ring. So he was faced with some real adversity against a dangerous fighter in Villanueva. Villanueva is very experienced. He's challenged for the world titles multiple times against the likes of, he's fought guys like Zlani Tete and Luis Neri and Nordino Bali. So this is a fighter that's very well experienced, but he's 35 years old. This, you would have to think from his perspective, this might have been like one of his last shots to really crack it at the top level of boxing. And you know, he had Elijah Pierce ready to go. And credit to Pierce. Pierce, when things got hot in there, he was able to remain composed and still, you know, survive that round. And you know, a lot of times you don't really know what you got in a fighter till they get hurt, until they get knocked down. And Pierce, from round 3 to the fourth round stoppage, fought very, very hard with a certain intensity. I think he made a good adjustment there in round 3 where he stopped staying in front of Villanueva as much because he was doing a little bit too much squaring up, you know, in the first 2 rounds. He squared up too much in the first 2 rounds, and that's what got him caught around the guard and almost knocked out in the second round. The third round, he started using his legs and his feet. But yeah, like I was saying, in the third round, Elijah Pierce started using his legs and his feet. And, you know, one thing about him you guys must know is that Elijah Pierce's dad, his family, they do a lot of capoeira, you know, that Brazilian style of fighting. So that's why when you watch him do his angles, and because that's what he was doing in the third and fourth round, he would angle off on Villanueva a lot, and he throws punches from really interesting, really weird angles. Sometimes he may angle off to the right and then throw this little overhand chopping right hand, which he was on Villanueva, and it was catching him. And he's very slick in there, and he's able to be aggressive and slick at the same time. And that's what he showed as he began to really beat the brakes off of Arthur Villanueva. And he was by the beginning of the fourth round, he damn near had his eye closed shut. And in the fourth round, he got the stoppage. So, you know, just a real great fight, honestly, an amazing fight on the Overtime Boxing platform on DAZN. Pierce gets kind of, you know, he got exposed a little bit. Some holes in his game got exposed, but that's okay. That's part of the game. The great fighters can make the adjustments and learn from that. So we'll see how it goes. He's in a real interesting position now because, you know, Pierce, he's top 15, top 10 in a lot of the governing organizations. So as far as fights, I would like to see him form next. I know he's calling out in the way like everybody else is around these weights, but I think fights against like Rais Salim, TJ Doheny, Mirja Akhmadaliev, those are the kind of fights that I would like to see him in, because those are guys that, Marlon Tapales as well, those are all guys that have either been champions, fought in a way, or just, you know, highly ranked fighters. So that would even give us a greater barometer of where he's at. But nonetheless, I think we learned a lot about Elijah Pierce's character in this fight. he showed that he does have dog in him, that when the going gets tough, he can summon something deep from within to fight. Last thing about this fight, and then we'll move on to the next one. There was a fighter ringside named Lorenzo Parra. Parra is a Venezuelan fighter. I checked his box rec. He's like 20 something and 0 with 17 knockouts. He's hasn't really fought a lot of name opposition. Most of his record is subpar opposition. Now I vaguely remember him because I remember overtime boxing last year. They had this thing on overtime boxing where if the fight is a draw after how many rounds they box, they actually have an overtime round and an extra additional round to settle who wins. And he actually wound up winning the overtime round against a guy who was like 12-1, who I can't remember right now. So that's his next fight supposedly. Elijah Pierce has already locked that fight in with Lorenzo Parra, so I don't really have much of an opinion on Parra, but judging by his record, can punch a little bit. Hasn't fought crazy opposition, but he's a fighter that they faced off after this fight, and there was a lot of trash talking, and Parra told Pierce that you're gonna feel this Venezuelan power. Elijah Pierce then turned on some Spanish and told him some of the only Spanish he knows, and he told him to suck it, like DX, like the Generation X in WWE. He told him to suck it. He even did the little suck it sign. So really, it's just a really fun main event. And if you didn't watch it, go watch it. Elijah Pierce scores a 4th round stoppage over Arthur Villanueva. Great fight. So yeah. All right. So the next fight I wanted to kind of break down is the WBA cruiserweight title fight between Gilberto Ramirez and Arsen Goulimarian. Really interesting fight because Zurdo had one fight at cruiserweight, which was against Joe Smith Jr. before this, but Joe Smith Jr. is really more so just kind of like Zurdo, a light heavyweight coming up in weight. So this was really, to me, his first fight against a full-fledged cruiserweight, fighter. And Goulimarian's been one of these guys that's had the belt for a long time and had promotional issues and a lot of things that kept him out the ring. So this was really his chance to make a name for himself in the boxing world, after having the belt for all these years. And he fought Zurdo. And it's been really interesting to see Zurdo adjust his style, because when he was at 68, when he was a super middleweight, he was a guy that came forward and threw a lot of punches. We saw against Joe Smith, he kind of got on his toes and he boxed more. This fight, he had a guy that was just as big, if not bigger than him. And the game plan that it looks like he was implementing was to counterpunch. Goulimarian would come and throw these wild clubbing shots. And he's a strong guy, so Zurdo couldn't just be this volume puncher. He had to be very selective with when he decided to fight this guy and when he decided to get off his shots. And I thought he did a great job. I thought he did a great job punching in between what Goulimarian was doing, turning him. And, look, he's a pioneer of Mexican boxing. I've always sang the praises of Gilberto Ramirez because I feel like, in the era of Canelo and Munguia and Benavidez, I feel like he gets overshadowed a lot as a Mexican fighter. But he's really he don't really do a lot of talking. His results speak for themselves. First Mexican to win the super middleweight title. Now the first Mexican, as he won this fight by decision, to become cruiserweight champion. And I beat a legitimate cruiserweight champion to do it. So now he's in a division, which I think is very interesting because you look at the cruiserweight title landscape. You got the IBF title right now is vacant because the IBF stripped Jao Pataya. Noah McCallion is the WBC champion, and the WBO champion is Chris Billum-Smith. So I'm not sure which is going to be the most realistic unification fight for Zurdo, if he could get one. Chris Billum-Smith doesn't really take unification fights because he's part of that whole boxer Ben Shalom setup where they don't like to work with other people. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I would probably say the most realistic fight for him out there is going to be Noah McCallion, who just beat Makabu for the title. And that's a very winnable fight for Zurdo. He could pick up that belt very, very easily. Not to disrespect McCallion, but I think that's a very winnable fight for him. McCallion he's kind of like a Goulimarian, but he's not punching like a Goulimarian. So I think Zurdo could outbox him. The elephant in the room, though, to be honest, when it comes to this whole division, because we all know who the best cruiserweight in the world is, and that's the Ring Magazine cruiserweight champion who was unjustly stripped, Jao Pataya. I felt like if Zurdo really wants to cement himself as the best cruiserweight in the division, beating a guy like Opataya would go a long way towards proving, where he's at in the division, because Opataya has been beating the brakes off everyone. He looks like someone that fight by fight could become one of the best cruiserweights of all time. So I would like that fight for Zoro, just because I think that's the kind of fight where everything gets tested at this division for him. But nonetheless, a very, very good performance against Arsen Goulimarian, a guy that can really punch and had some things to worry about. He was also, last thing, Goulimarian there wasn't a whole lot of trash talk in this fight, but the only disrespect was really Goulimarian said that I have the real Mexican style and these kind of things. And he came forward and he threw punches, but like I said, boxing's a sport of questions and answers. Every punch is a question, and you got to have the answers, and he had every last answer in the ring, counter punching. And Julian Chua gets a lot of disrespect as a trainer in boxing from fans sometimes because a lot of his fighters been losing. But this fight right here, I think he deserves some credit. They came with a good game plan, and Zoro looked like $1 million again. So yeah, it's time for boxing fans to really start appreciating Zoro. Yeah, he lost to Bivol, but Bivol is a world-class A++ fighter. There's no shame in losing to guys like Bivol. Outside of that, in his career, he has been a very steady, consistent performer who continues to make history. When he hangs with the gloves, there's a lot of things that people are going to have to mention with his name. The first Mexican to do this and the first Mexican to do that. So, he's definitely done a lot of good things in his career, and just overall really good performance from him against Goulimarian. All right, so the fight that I heard the most excitement about over the weekend was this British title fight between Fabio Wardley and Frazer Clarke. It was a fight that I knew about. I knew it was happening, but it wasn't a fight that was ultra on my radar. But it was interesting because Frazer Clarke had the big amateur background, the pedigree. Bronze medalist in the Olympics. They're obviously fast-tracking Frazer Clarke because of his amateur background. Fabio Wardley comes from a completely different background. He comes from the white-collar boxing background, and he really wasn't supposed to get this far. He's done a great job winning the British Commonwealth titles, beat David Adelaide, and some other guys, some good guys domestically, but this was going to be his biggest step-up fight. It was a fight on paper that he was not supposed to win. They brought him in for a reason, right? And it was an interesting fight because Frazer Clarke has more of that thudding power. Other two fighters, he has more of that thudding power. Wardley has more speed and combination. So there were a lot of ebbs and flows in the fight, and I thought that Wardley did a great job landing his right hand and dipping out of the way through the first couple rounds. But then once Frazer Clarke got his timing down and started hitting him, you started to visibly see what it was doing to Fabio Wardley's face, and it was a really close fight. Could have went either way. They scored it a draw, so Wardley gets a chance to keep the British and Commonwealth titles and press onwards and upwards. But really, to be honest, from what I saw, I thought Wardley might have edged the fight. It was a real close fight, but I thought I liked his work a little bit better than what Frazer Clarke was doing. It was a draw, so they can have a rematch, and it'll be really exciting, and a lot of people will want to see the fight and whatnot. But Wardley, right now, I got to give him a lot of credit, man, because when I first seen him fight years ago, I'm talking 4 years ago, I kind of thought he was a bit of a joke, honestly. That's what I really thought about him. I thought he was a bit of a joke. I thought, coming from the white-collar background, his ceiling was only but so high, and it probably only is still but so high, but you got to give the man his due. The guy isn't supposed to be this far along on his boxing journey, and he's already overachieved. So everything from David Adelaide on up, from David Adelaide to now, he's just playing with house money. And you look at the rankings, Wardley is ranked in 3 of the 4 sanctioning bodies. He's ranked number 6 in the WBO. So quiet as kept. I mean, I know nobody's clamoring to see him fight for the heavyweight title right away, but rankings-wise, he's right there. So I think he's in a very attractive position because people are going to want to see the Frazer Clarke rematch. I didn't even watch the fight when it happened live, and I want to see the Frazer Clarke rematch because it was, from what I've seen, it's exciting. And as far as Frazer Clarke, bit of a letdown on his end because, again, this is with all the experience he has. This is a fight that he was supposed to go in there and win, and he wasn't able to do that. He wasn't able to really show that gap in class that people were looking to see from him in the fight. So he's got to he's got to put some things right. So I think a rematch would probably be the best option for the two. But nonetheless, you talk about classic British title fights. A lot of times, I feel like the best fights in British boxing are the British title fights, when you get two prideful, Brits at a good stage of their career fighting for the British title. A lot of times those are better than the world title fights. So this, you could file this one under classic British title fights, because it definitely delivered. And again, to me, like, Fabio Wardley is a great example in boxing of, like, you can measure a fighter's experience level and their skills to a degree, but you can't really measure like just how bad they want to succeed. And I feel like that's what's got him here so far is his dedication to the sport. Because again, to come from the white collar boxing background, and then now, he's as high as number 6 in the WBO in the heavyweight division. That's nothing to scoff at. So really good fight. Shout out to both fighters, and hopefully they get a rematch. Because I enjoyed I didn't get a chance to watch it live, so I had to watch highlights and whatnot, but I enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the aftermath and all the respect that the fighters have been getting after the fight. So yeah, shout out to both of them. All right, so over there in Japan, you had the Shigeoka brothers defending their belts. YUDAI defended the WBC belt against Melvin, which we'll get into, but we're talking about the IBF champion, Ginjiro Shigeoka, because he's the brother that people think is the better of the two. Southpaw power puncher. He's got the bleach blonde hair. Just a lot of positive things to mention about Ginjiro Shigeoka. And he had a defense against the number 6 IBF contender, Jake Amparo. Amparo, just doesn't have the prettiest record. It was 14-6-1. I think three or four knockouts. So on paper, to me, this looked like just a routine, title defense, against the guy in the rankings. And there's not really a whole lot to dissect with the fight. Shigeoka stopped Amparo in 2 rounds, and just looking at the fight, Amparo had a very wide stance, and he didn't have the speed or the accuracy, I feel, to pick off Ginjiro Shigeoka and keep him at bay and land the kind of shots he was trying to land. So Shigeoka did a lot of probing with that lead right hand jab, and he tried to get to the head. And I think it was all a decoy. It was all a setup. He was throwing a lot of hooks, probing lead jabs, probing lead hooks, and then he ultimately wound up stopping him with a left hook, with a left hand to the body. He sucked a left hand right into the body, and he doubled Jake Amparo over. So he makes his first successful defense of the IBF minimum weight title. And the question, listen, with Ginjiro Shigeoka, the question is going to become every time he fights is, when is him and Oscar Collazo going to fight? Because that's really the biggest fight that could be made in the 105-pound division. Him and Oscar Collazo. Oscar Collazo here stateside from Puerto Rico, signed a Golden Boy. A lot of people think that, he is the best fighter in this division. A lot of people think Ginjiro Shigeoka is the best fighter in this division. So they're going to have to come figure that out at some point. I don't know if Golden Boy will have to pay him to come to America, or they'll have to work out something for Oscar to go to Japan. But that fight's getting hotter and hotter as the days and months progress. But yeah, as far as this fight with Jake Amparo, not a whole lot to dissect, because there was only 2 rounds. Ginjiro just dissected. He took a round to dissect him, measured the range, sunk a left hand into the body, doubled him over, made a defense of the title, and picked up some quick, easy money. So bigger things ahead for Ginjiro as he progresses his career. All right, and we saved the best for last, ladies and gentlemen. We saved the best for last. So the last fight we're going to talk about in this super post-fight review recap series is going to be the fight in the minimum weight division featuring the other Shigeoka brother, YUDAI Shigeoka. This is his first defense of the WBC title, and he was taking on, I think, a much harder opponent than Ginjiro had. He was taking on a former champion in the explosive Filipino power puncher, Melvin Jerusalem. And obviously, Melvin Jerusalem, he lost his belt to a fighter that a lot of people think is the best fighter in this division, in Oscar Collazo. So this is a chance for him to really put himself back on the map. And boy, did he ever put himself back on the map, because I don't want to be disrespectful, but, like, in my opinion, I thought he outclassed YUDAI. I think YUDAI looked out of his depth in the whole fight. YUDAI Shigeoka didn't have an answer for the right hand. And it didn't matter where Melvin Jerusalem decided to throw it. If it was to the head, it landed. If it was to the body, it landed. Melvin also did great work in spots of the fight, finding that left hook to the body, to the ribs of YUDAI. And it really, YUDAI to me just never felt, it never felt like at any point in the fight he found his footing. YUDAI Shigeoka is an excellent counterpuncher. He's at his best when he is counterpunching. I thought Melvin presented plenty of counterpunching opportunities for him, but I just think once he got touched by the explosive Filipino power of Melvin Jerusalem, he put his hands in his pocket and he kind of went into a bit of a survival mode. That's what it looked like to me. So Melvin Jerusalem, and you know what, Melvin Jerusalem, it was fun to watch because he wasn't just hitting this dude with the right hand and left hooks and explosive punches, and he didn't just drop him because he had a knockdown where he stepped back and threw a straight right hand and dropped him. Apart from all that, you know, he was showboating in the 12th round. You know, you could tell it meant a lot to Melvin Jerusalem to win this title, and he's once again the world champion at 105 pounds. So I mean, to me, Elijah Pierce versus Villanueva was a great fight, but to me, this might have been the performance of the week because Melvin Jerusalem was not expected to come to Japan and beat YUDAI Shigeoka. Nope, that wasn't supposed to happen. That wasn't part of the script. But they fight the fights for a reason, and you know, very, very impressive performance. A very impressive performance for him. And I think, look, with him beating up one of the brothers, I mean, that should naturally, the progression should be, okay, you beat up one of the brothers. Now Ginjiro has to come defend his brother's honor. You got to come and try to fight him. And that would probably be a better fight because Ginjiro is more of a puncher. He's more of a guy that comes to get you. YUDAI is more of a boxer, you know, counter puncher, mover type of fighter. So I would like that fight. I would like that fight next if they can't make Asa Collazo. Obviously, the Asa Collazo fight is the fight to make in the division. But I think that fight right there would be good. Melvin Jerusalem versus Ginjiro, because, look, Ginjiro is trying to get to Oscar. I'm sure Melvin wants to avenge his loss to Oscar in a unification fight. So them two should fight, and then the winner should fight Oscar. And that would be a great just round robin type of style tournament for the minimum weight division. But minimum weight, man, is heating up in a major way. You know, I think with the injection of champions like the Oscar Collazo and the Shigeoka brothers, and now once again Melvin Jerusalem, the division is becoming one of the more entertaining divisions in the sport. So yeah, shout out to Melvin Jerusalem. He's my performance of the week for me. Impressive stuff from him, an impressive display of power punching and just precision and just. He displayed the behavior of a guy that had to be champion. It wasn't a matter of he wanted to win it. He fought like he had to win. And as far as YUDAI, you know, YUDAI is still a very good fighter. I think YUDAI can become champion again. He just needs to fight more of his fight and not put his hands in his pocket when he gets hit by right hands. But yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the long-winded recap. But let me know what you guys think. What was your performance of the week? Which fights did you enjoy the most? And yeah, stay tuned for all the content. 90 Days of Boxing, day 75 will be later on today. So make sure you guys tune into that. Check out all the interviews and shorts that have been coming out, and just keep supporting the channel. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. I'm at the Boxing Hall of Fame out here in Canastota, New York. And for more great boxing content just like this video, make sure you click and subscribe right over here.